Yeah, so welcome everyone. I'm calling from the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts, and we're hosting Mahmoud Hamadani today.
Hamadani.
Hamadani, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's okay.
Um, and he's out at the Potato Farm Project, which is a partnership residency that we have initiated with Vadehi and her husband, Drew. And so he's going to tell us a little bit about his work and what he's doing out there. And we'll have a little Q&A afterwards.
First, hello, I'm Mahmoud. Before I go on, I want to thank Vadehi and Drew for generous provision of this space and the studio space and the house. I'm having a great time, and by great time I don't mean I'm partying. I'm working. I have never been so isolated in my life. I think it's a combination of the fact that this is not New York City, and the winter and Corona. So the three of them, I've been pretty much at home. I go for walks every day, and then create work, which is a wonderful opportunity. I want to say hello to Sally, who just joined, and also thank you, Derek, for all your help and with organizing this. Bill is not here. I will thank Bill for leading us through the past 10 months. I have a slideshow for you. I'm going to, let's see, let me share the screen here. Yes. Let me just go and can you? Okay. You see this? Okay, very good. This is not my work. I'm going to show you 4 works, and there is reason that I'm going to do this. What you see here is a bracelet from over 3,500 years ago. It was found in what is today Afghanistan, and I show this and also the few others that I'm going to show you to tell you that modernity is not a new idea. Human beings have been creating modern works throughout their existence. And when you look at this, if we didn't know that this was from over 3,000 years ago, we would accept it as a beautiful work of modern art. I'm going to move to another one, and this is from over 4,000 years ago. It's a drinking vessel or pouring vessel. And just when you look at it, look at the absolute care that the artist has made in building it, that ridge in the front that goes from the neck down to the stomach. It's so elegant. What that really means is that the sense of elegance that this artist had over 4,000 years ago we share that elegance. I'll show you another one. This is a plate from about 700 years ago. Look at the minimal, the efficiency of work here. And yet another one, and this is asymmetric, minimal, just so beautiful. The reason I'm showing this is to tell you that aesthetics has not changed throughout human existence. Aesthetic has remained the same. Technology has changed. And what we are doing, we are repeating the same thing, the same stories over and over again in our language. We are So what is the only obligation that we have to this history, to this rich history, is to be modern. And by being modern, I mean to put something of ourselves into the work, to make sure that it is original. And what I mean by original is not that we should look at other people's work and try to do something different. That's not how it works. It's important to look at everybody's work, both historical and contemporary. What is important, in order to be original, we have to put something of our own, say something that is original to our own truth, in effect. So I'll move on to the next slide. This is a little more contemporary. This is my work. It is an installation that I did with cubes. It's called Ode to New York. The baby there is for scale. I did it after September 11th, but I've kept this and I do various versions of it over and over again. This will never get old for me. This is another version. And move on, yet another version, which is very different. I made this installation at the Symphony space. I hung these cubes from the ceiling. It was, of course, arranged. And I hung them with invisible wire, so they looked like they were suspended in the air. This is another installation that I did at Santa Fe Art Institute. It is in a pond of water. So I built a structure in the pond. And so about 6 inches below the water, you see this. This is the detail of it. I used turkey wire, insect wire, and chicken wire in order to build this installation. The next important, we judge a work of art by three criteria: originality, execution, and impact. Originality, I already talked about. Execution, what it really means is to be efficient, is not to clutter your work, not to apologize for your work, to give your statement with confidence and stop. And in this case, of course, it's a visual statement. And if, by the way, going back to originality, if we are original, no matter how many other people's works we have seen, our work is going to come out differently. We might say the same thing. For example, you can ask 10 people to write a poem about rain or about moon. There'll be 10 different poems. They're all about rain, but they'll be different. They'll have, and sometimes contrasting. That means they're looking at the moon from two opposing perspectives. Unless if I stole somebody else's poem, it would be impossible for my poem to come out exactly the same as another one's. The same is true about visual arts. We should just do our own thing, give expression to what is inside us. So we'll move on to the Requiem series. This gives you an idea of the alphabet that I use. It's not an alphabet, it's kind of an abstract alphabet that I use in order to do my work, to draw my work. This is another example of Requiem. I use, sometimes my background is in mathematics, and I use Fibonacci series in this. These are the arrangement of these shapes is based on Fibonacci numbers. Yet another example. This is a more recent version of the same series, of the Requiem series. the reason I named this Requiem is a piece of music that tries to reconcile you with loss, and it doesn't make you happy. So it comes to us at a time of sadness, and the point of Requiem is not to make you happy, but to reconcile you with your loss. And somehow these works evoked that reconciliation for me. This is a more ambitious version. But just various ones. Yes, this is a triptych. And this is how I relax. This, I was hanging these works. If you see those cubes, they are slightly askew. So if I were to hang these in a regular way, those cubes, those are not cubes, rather squares, would be at an angle to one another. And somehow when I was hanging them, I decided I wanted to line up the squares. In order to line up the squares, I had to move the frames. Here we move to the next series of my book, traces. I create traces by blowing income paper, so there is no hand involved. And the reason that the way this started is when I was doing Requiem, because for a long time I was obsessively doing these, and the movement put my hand out of commission for about 6 months. And during that time, I started blowing ink on water, and somehow this series Traces came out of that. I'll show you a few works in this series. This is a wild one. This is a relatively older one, and it is from a time that I had not yet developed the inhibition that comes with perfecting one's craft. I know it is as you perfect your craft, you have to watch and not to be inhibited by your technique. And I think this is from before that time. I really love this work. I haven't been able to do something similar recently, so I have to get over my inhibitions and create more of these. This is again an old one. I'll show you some new ones here from the series Traces. There's a poem by Gu Cheng, a contemporary Chinese poet. And it goes like this. Now on my heart's page, there is no grit to guide my hand, no character to trace, only the moisture, the ink blue dew that has dripped from the leaves. To spread it, I can't use a pen. I can't use a writing brush. I can only use my life's gentlest breath to make a single line of marks worth puzzling over. And it's incredible that me as a visual artist and a Chinese poet, Gu Cheng, we are saying exactly the same thing in two different mediums. I do it with drawing by blowing ink on paper, and he does it in poetry. I like this one. This is, there's this director, Abbas Kiarostami, who said, a work of art is like one's sister. You can't sing her praises, and you can't say bad things about her either. So I get, when I look at my work of art, sometimes I get excited. I like some of these more. So I sing the praises, which is violating that axiom. Here, I love this work, that kind of, it's very sensual. Again, and these are not planned. I make these as I go along. It's a game of chance and will. I try to impose my will on this in making this, and but accidents happen, and it is how you work with accidents. In a way, it mirrors life. Life is not what happens when we plan everything. It is these chance encounters, accidents, and how we deal with those accidents is what defines our lives. This is a framed version, a triptych. I've been doing a lot of these triptychs recently. I like them for some reason. They have more than triple the impact. Oh, this is a collage of works from Requiem and Traces, and somehow they make sense. They go well together. And again, I've been doing these collages here at the potato farm. I have been creating a lot of these small works, so I'm going to put them together most likely as collages. This is from the series Odes. Odes is the simplest of the work that I do. It's just repetition of a straight line. In some cases, curved lines, you'll see. And it's different from the other works in the sense that I have to be absolutely fastidious. There is no room for accident, no room for change. Everything has got to be executed impeccably. Even a single dot will destroy this work. It's a penance for doing traces, I guess. But here's another. This is not straight lines. This is really a kind of exploration of the dynamics of light and shadow in a very simple way. A very simple way. Which is not much to say for an artist, that I'm exploring the dynamics of light and shadow. It's like for a cook saying I'm exploring the dynamics of salt and pepper. They're so basic. Here is a triptych of odes. And now we move on to Endless Roads. The name Endless Roads comes from a poem by Azadeh Farahmand. And it goes like this. I'm the last child in search of the origins of my belatedness, forever wandering. Alleys of desire and endless roads of wonder. So these drawings evoked the endless roads of wonder for me. This is pure chance and will, no planning. As Rumi says, I'm looking for that which cannot be found. So it's an exploration. It's an exploration for a shape which you have no idea what that shape is. And somehow, something emerges. And the most important decision that I make is when to stop. Which in a way, that is how life is. The most important decision sometimes in life is when to stop. Here is a mural from the same series. This is a smaller work from the series, very minimal. and a favorite of mine. The criteria that I set for work of art is originality, execution, and the third one is impact. Impact is beyond your control. Originality is what you put into it. Execution is how you do it. But impact is across history. For example, the ancient works that I showed you, even today they are impactful by the mere fact that I'm showing them to you, and most likely you're enjoying seeing them. So the impact can go across history, across thousands of years. And when we make a work of art, we shouldn't be so concerned about the present day. We are making something that 5,000 years from now, if somebody looks at it, hopefully they'll have the same reaction that we have today to the works that I showed earlier. But again, we cannot determine the impact. We do the work, I do the work, and it is how the others are impacted by it. However, that said, sometimes, because we are human beings and we can look at our works objectively, sometimes you look at the work of art and say, oh, this has impact. This is moving me, even me, although I'm very close to it. This is a larger work, 51 by 90. From the same series, Endless Roads. This is a proposal that I made for MoMA. This is the largest wall at MoMA, and this has never been painted on. And somehow, it reminds me of who's the Santa Fe artist, the woman who did these beautiful flowers. Nobody's helping me. I'll remember. But she said that she lived in Abiquiu, New Mexico. And she said, by looking at the hill, I made it mine. And so by looking at that wall, I have a sense of ownership of that wall. It has never been painted on. And I like to think that they are waiting for me. And so this is my proposal for that wall. I've sent it to them, by the way, and 2 curators responded. One of them came to my studio. Nothing has come out of it yet, but I'm pursuing this. I think it looks perfect for MoMA. Now we move to something totally different. I got a grant from Paula Krasner a few years ago, and I decided I spent a whole year to make this series. The series is called Clash, and it's a clash. It's simple. The reason I called it Clash because it represents clash of parallel worlds, such as conceptualism and abstraction. We know that these are parallel, the conceptual art and abstraction, they're 2 different worlds. But to bring them together in a clash, and in that way mirroring other clashes that is happening in our world today, such as the clash between the world of faith and reason. So the works in this series are all made with silk. I upholster silk on boards. So the background, the blue background is silk that is upholstered. And the red and the blue wood that you see, I've bolted it on top of that upholstered silk from behind. This is 2 feet by 8 feet. And the title for this is 2005 Military Spending, US versus Axis of Evil. So the work looks purely abstract. If you didn't read the title, nothing would be evoked but abstraction. But when you read the title, it reveals itself as something that is harsh even as we move forward. I'll show you. Harsh. In a way, as an artist, I'm undermining myself by giving it that title. But my goal is to do something bigger than just make abstract art in this case. And that is to give you an example of clash of parallel worlds. In a way, shake the audience, slap them in the face, if you will, with this harsh reality. This is 6 foot by 6 foot, again, silk, wood, and this is called proportion of the Iraqi population versus American population killed in the war. This is in 2005. Again, disturbing. It wipes away any good feeling that one might have by looking at an abstract art. This was done, this is US budget deficit, 1994 to 2005. If you remember, in the year 2000, we had surplus, we had budget surplus. So we were in the black for years, and we haven't been in the black for decades now, except for that year, for that 1 year. Again, an example of, this looks like a work by Judd, but the subject differentiates it. This, we'll move on to another series. These are paintings that I've done. I'll show you the texture of how it is done. There are 2 layers. And very simple. The series is called haiku because the geometric nature of it and the minimal nature of it somehow evoked the poetry of haiku for me. We'll move on to another image of this. These are all 4 by 4, 4 feet by 4 feet. This is the texture of it. There are 2 layers of wood, and the top layer is separated from the bottom layer by about a 1/4 inch. So this is another collage. I want to show you one more thing. Let me just do this. Let's see. Okay. Can you see this? Can you see this screen? Are you able to see this?
We see
Yes,
the
we can.
screen. We also see the style menu.
Yes.
Oh, okay. How do I? Let's see. I have to somehow. Maybe. How do I? Okay, I'll go like this. I don't. So this is a work a couple years ago, I was at Stanford University. One of my collectors told me that there's this Iranian mathematician. It was a young woman. She was 38 years old, and she won the Fields Prize in mathematics. She was the first woman in the world ever to win that prize, like the Nobel Prize of Mathematics. And unfortunately, 2 years later, she died. So this was a big event all over in the mathematics world, at Stanford, in Iran. And somebody on the board of Stanford told me that they want to build a monument for her, to honor her. But he said that the mathematics department is not very keen on it because they don't want their space disturbed. So I said, I'll come up with a plan. And the plan that I came up with, and the woman's name is, the mathematician's name is Maryam Mirzakhani. So what I did, this is what the image that you see here is the corridor right next to mathematics department at Stanford University. So every day, this was my plan. Every day around 15 minutes to noon, an image will start appearing on the floor here. It's the image of a woman who is sitting on the floor and doing topology, which was her field. The image becomes sharper and sharper as we get closer to noon. At noon, it is at the height of sharpness. And after that, it starts fading away. And this was the work on the floor here. Now, the way I achieved this is I put a dish, a solar dish, somewhere on the outside of the view, somewhere on top here. And facing the sun. As the earth rotates around the sun and it comes closer, it starts collecting the rays of the sun. And as it gets closer and closer to the center of this dish, which is facing the sun, of course, it collects more rays, it becomes stronger. I transfer those rays, the light, through fiber optic cables to somewhere on top right here. And there is a contraption here that I will build with two lenses. One of them is a focusing lens. The other one is a projection lens. And between the two of them, there is a plate with an etching, with an image of Maryam. So the light shines through it and is blown up on the floor here. So you see nothing here except if on an ordinary day or at any time other than around noon you would see nothing here. This is just, the space is not disturbed at all. But there is, if you look closely, you might see a lens on top of the ceiling there. That's about it. So I proposed this to them. Unfortunately, it's not built, but it is an example of the installation work that I do. I was very proud of it, and I was very disappointed when they decided not to build it, and it was because the family of the woman said that we think our daughter was an ordinary woman, and we don't believe in building legends out of our daughter, which is a valid reason. But they never got to look at this proposal, I think. Anyway, I will stop sharing, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
What was it? I'm so curious about using your breath to make drawings. And I'm curious if you can maybe talk a little bit more about that, because you did say that it's between being in control and being out of control. and letting the chants play.
Yes, before I answer your question, that artist was Georgia O'Keeffe. Marina was kind to remind me. So the question is chants and well. What?
So you go from using your hands and having this very skillful way of doing that, and then suddenly the hands are not.
Yes, are not
involved any longer, and you're using your breath to make.
Yes.
I'm curious about what that feels like.
At the time, because it was my only choice, it felt wonderful because I felt useful. My mother, who's 90 years old, told me once that the worst thing about being old is that you feel useless. And as people who are younger, we don't think about that. I think as human beings, we want to create. That's how we define ourselves as human beings. And I'll go one step further. We want to create beauty and meaning. If there is such a thing as a purpose for ourselves, for us, it's not something that is given to us or somehow it happens that way. I say it's like a cat. For a cat, the purpose of their lives is to play with catnip and nap. So they nap and then they play with catnip. That's how it is for human beings. It's to create beauty and meaning. And there's a connection between beauty and meaning. Sometimes beauty can be so rich that it attains a meaning, even in abstraction. And meaning can be so deep that it becomes beautiful. For example, the poem by Rumi, which says, which I mentioned earlier, I'm looking for that which cannot be found. Mm-hmm. It's a very profound thing. What it means is that I'm process-oriented. I'm looking for that which cannot be found. I'm process-oriented, but it is so beautiful. It's just deeply meaningful, but it's also so beautiful because of that depth of meaning. Or Shakespeare says, some rise by sin and some by virtue fall. What a beautiful statement. It's so true. It is so true. And it is the truth of it, the depth of the meaning that makes it beautiful. So there is a connection between beauty and meaning. And so going back, yes, as long as I'm making work, as long as I am useful, even though I couldn't work with my hand at the time. By the way, so far, later on, I switched from doing it with my breath. Originally, I created by breath. I'm using these computer cleaners, dust busters, as they call them, to make those works now. Mm-hmm. And somehow they're better. They come out better.
I was just thinking there's also an enormous letting go if you don't use your hands, just kind of really.
Yes, it's like a dancer. I really like dance. Mm. I just enjoy watching dance. And one of the things that I found out about dancers, I call them the dancers' intelligence. All the dancers I've met, and I've known quite a few dancers, they're very intelligent. And pretty much all of them don't, especially the classical dancers, they never go to college. They go from high school to dancing. And they're all very intelligent. And I theorize that they have acquired this intelligence through their bodies. That by going to places with their bodies that the ordinary person never ventures into. I mean, the balancing work that we do is walking, or maybe boogieing sometimes, but that's about it. But as a dancer, you explore areas with your body that the ordinary person doesn't do that. And your brain develops as a result of that. So it is working with your body is very satisfying. Singing has that effect on you. I've talked to people who are singers and people who are in the choir. They say it's the most extraordinary feeling when you do that. Anybody else?
Mahmoud, do you want to tell us a little bit about your
I have a
in the residency and what you've seen there or experienced?
At the residency?
Yeah.
As I said, I'm really indoors except for the daily walks that I make outside. And when I go on walks, maybe I see one person. And here everybody says hello to one another. So I've learned that. And that's about it. The closest grocery store is 1 hour and 15 minutes walk from here. So I sometimes I walk 2.5 hours to get paper towel or something like that. But at the residency, again, it's a combination of 3 things. It is winter, there's Corona, and that we are isolated here. Well, I'm not. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it because I'm working and I'm making work.
Mahmoud?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Sally.
Oh, it's so wonderful to see you and so great to hear you speak about your work. And I couldn't help but to think when you were showing the tree light, you're with your breath drawing. This is a perfect time for you to be out there because there's all those beautiful bare trees and those lines in nature out there that so remind me of that series.
Yes, I always say with work of art, so we are absorbing these things unconsciously, and whatever work we do, it carries the imprint of all those influences on us. So the other day I was walking and I saw this one tree which was just so beautiful. It was, of course, bare, no leaves. Mm-hmm. But in twilight, against the reddish skies, it just moved me so much. Yes, we it's a good point. It's not like I'm walking around here with my eyes closed and my consciousness locked.
I could imagine you doing some night drawings out there. I don't know. I'm picturing you out there, and I'm so happy you're out there. And it's a big change from being in the city, which everything is so.
Yes, I am so happy I'm here, and you'll see by the works that I'll show after. I've quite a lot of paper. I might actually stay and never leave.
I understand that. How long are you there for? Do you know?
Yes, I think I'm scheduled to be here until the 27th of January.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I miss you, but this has been a very big treat. Wonderful.
Oh, thank you. By the way, Sally and I were on the same floor, and we used to hang out all the time.
Yeah.
But you're right. I never talked about my art the way I talked now.
Wonderful. Very
chatted. Yes. Good to see you.
You too.
Mahmoud, this is Arani Bose. Thank you for such a wonderful talk. It was really beautiful. I wanted to ask you, you talked about your Stanford project and that was not realized. I wonder if you could spend a few minutes talking about other installation projects maybe realized or not realized that you've conceived of or thought about?
Hello, Arani. Good to hear your voice. And am I? I think it was 2 years ago when I saw you at Alwan. So
yes,
yes. So it's a wonderful surprise. I didn't expect it to be here, but it's good to hear your voice. I do installation whenever I'm given a chance. Wait, did you see my talk from the beginning? There was the Santa Fe installation that I showed.
Yes, I did.
And there was another installation project that I proposed for because of Corona, and to the shed, and somehow that was not accepted. There are thousands apparently, but the installation project involved creating this installation where there are these various parallel layers, and each layer there would be a graph on it. One graph would be the development of Corona, how the number of people who caught it, and this is against time, against the scale of time. The x-axis would be time, and the y-axis is the movement of Corona. Right behind it, parallel to it and close to it, would be the development of unemployment, how that is moving. Right behind it, the stock market, how that is moving. And there's several other variables that you could 4 or 5 variables, the weather patterns, the pollution levels. So if you put them against one another, a story could evolve. And behind all of these, I would put a screen where I would mark the events, the important events that took place, the presidential elections, maybe whatever event, and try to establish a connection between all of these visually. That was my plan. And I had quite an elaborate contraption in order to do this. And it was a live thing. It was something that moved with time. An installation, it wasn't a one-off thing. It was an open-ended installation. So that, again, these ideas come. There was another installation idea that I have, which is a transparent maze. And I create a maze in a very large room, let's say 70 feet by 100 feet. And the walls of the maze is made with thin wires, floor to ceiling. So if you stand on one side of the maze, you can see all the way through. But the fact that you can see all the way through the way these wires are placed doesn't make navigating this easier. It makes it more difficult. And that is a metaphor for transparent societies. In transparent societies, it is more difficult to navigate the system than it is in, say, dictatorships. Because in a dictatorship, you have one person you can point out and say that person is responsible. Whereas in the transparent societies, there are different rules and centers of power. So that, but visually, that would be really the impact, I think, would be great of that maze. I have images of that maze. I can hopefully I'll show them to you. Hopefully, I know with Marina we've been trying. We have talked back and forth about you visiting my studio. But please, anytime, come for a visit, and I'll share images of that and many other things with you.
Thank you.
Well, Mahmoud, this was very nice to hear all this. Thank you for sharing. If there aren't any more questions, Mahmoud, what's the best way to see your work?
Oh, I have Instagram. My website is mahmoudhamadani.com. And Instagram is Mahmoud Hamadani, my first name and last name. But those are not the best ways. The best way is to visit my studio, which is at 320 West 39th Street, Elizabeth Foundation. I'm a longtime member. And when you come to my studio, a lot of people think, oh, we are disturbing the artist. No, no. I sit there by myself all day, so any interruption is welcome. It helps me to remain human.